Hello, hello, hello. This is like the fourth attempt now of making a video with the baby dog. Okay, so it's cold. I have to put this over me. Okay, it's cold. Yes, this is a Christmas theme. So, with reindeer and the American holly. American holly brush. Very nice. I love American holly. We have it in the garden. So, the other day I saw the Oregon grape. Oregon grape looks distinctly different. So, I didn't realize how different it was. I always thought this was Oregon grape, but this is American holly. And the Oregon grape also has these spike leaves, but they are only half the size, or even a third of the size, and lighter green and not shiny surface. These here are shiny surface, make very good Christmas decoration. And the Oregon grape has the leaves are symmetrical, while the leaves of the American holly are intermittently distributed throughout the stem, so they're not growing parallel in parallel pairs. They grow like one leaf here, the next one here, next one there, next one. So like that. And this is a medicinal plant too, and it hasn't been researched very much, but the Oregon grape is also a medicinal plant, and that the Oregon grape reduces blood sugar and cholesterol, so that's very nice. But I didn't have my gloves with me when we went to the beach, so I couldn't pick the Oregon grape because it's too spiky. When I pick the American holly, I have to wear gloves, gardening gloves, to do it, and then I can cut it with a pruner and put it into my thermos can. But I don't recommend taking too many, maybe one leaf, maybe one of the berries. So that's all, not more than that, because it does have alkaloids in it that I don't know they might cause migraine headache or nausea. So, but anyway, last night I was watching AI generated narrated stories again, as I always do, and I came across the ones that talk about people that went missing in forests, and I didn't want to watch it because I know what it does with my nervous system, but I was just too intrigued and curious. I needed to know what's going on. Sometimes the photo of a person lures me in, and I feel like this person wants me to watch it and make a video about it, to bring more awareness to the situation. So the first story that I watched was about two hikers in Washington state. Real kind-hearted people, Swedish looking, Pleiadian looking, yet two young people, man and his wife, like in their 20s or maybe 30 maximally. Real young and real gorgeous and real and very blonde, but real natural blonde, not like I am. I'm not a natural blonde. So everything else is natural except for my hair color. So the fat is all natural. So yes, baby dog, we don't do surgery. But anyway, I don't know if I can make a video. I'm kind of disturbed by these cases. So when I'm disturbed by certain cases, then I might be so disturbed that I can't even really talk about it. But I want to talk about it. I want to share this. I mean, not very many people watch anyway, but I feel like an obligation or a duty to share this with the world. Whatever I watch and whatever I observe, and maybe there are things I observe that other people don't see. So it's always worth sharing your own thoughts and your own observations. That's my personal view on it. So the first case of the Swedish looking couple, they're from Oregon, I think, yeah, from Oregon, but they lived in, I don't know if they lived in Oregon or Washington, but Oregon and Washington are adjacent to one another. So, but they went hiking in the wilderness in a forest in Washington state. And they went way out there for miles. Just these two people. They didn't even have a dog, okay, which is very dangerous. Very dangerous. You should bring a dog, okay, a large dog, at least pit bull type of dog, Amstaff, okay. So Mastiff, the best would be English Mastiff or the Neapolitan Mastiff. Okay, those are the most impressive looking, and they're also extreme guard dogs and protective dogs. So they protect their best friends no matter what. Okay, so they have no fear at all when it comes to protecting their best friends. So that would be difficult for a human trafficker to come across these people if they had one of those dogs. So the human trafficker would have second thoughts on stopping them or trying to lure them away or whatever. Even if they bring a medical helicopter, which they use to snatch people for organ harvesting. This is happening out there in US wilderness and Canada wilderness as well. And certainly this kind of stuff is happening in Mexico, in Central America and South America, in massive amounts, all the time, this stuff. They don't even need the alibi of a medical helicopter there. They just take people. They use police cars to do it. The police is on board with human trafficking, and most of those people that work for the police. So it's the drug cartels that are really running South America. Everything south of the Tijuana border is run by drug cartels. That's a fact, okay? And the Mexican president, it's a pity, is also bribed by them and makes her decisions based on the bribe. Very sad. As Rockefeller said, every man, and I add every woman, has their price. It's very sad. Almost everyone, I have to put in parentheses, because I don't, okay? I cannot be bribed. You cannot bribe me. No matter how much money you offer, I will not betray anyone. I will not betray any living being. Okay? And that's where I stand. And I wished more people could view it like that as well. So then the world would become a better place. The drug cartels would dissolve from the inside out if everyone decided to not have a price anymore. So as James O'Keefe said, is your body, is your life your price? So what he means is, I have no price, so people will have to kill me to get to that other living being, okay, that I'm shielding with my body. And that's how it should be. But what I see from these reports and the stories and 48-hour crime reports and AI narrated reports, obviously this is happening on a massive scale. And there's also no oversight. It's not very good oversight. There is no accountability in people. People will go hiking, they will see someone in need of help. Some of these people will just walk away. Not everyone, of course, but some people will walk away. They say, oh, I don't want to get involved, while the other person is like dying or suffering gruesomely, right? They don't want to get involved. That's not how we make the world a better place, okay? But anyway, this couple, they hiked all the way out there for miles, I don't know, 10 miles into the wilderness. And there are some open gold mines, or I don't know what kind of mines, but there are open shafts in that forest, way out there. And those are mines from, I don't know, from the 1800s or something. And apparently these mines go for miles deep into the earth. Okay, what's happening there? That's a legitimate question to ask. These mines are connected with each other through tunnel systems, and then through tunnels that go way, way, way out. Possibly so far out, like into the next community or something. Miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, way out there. So what's going on? Why is there this elaborate labyrinth of tunnels? That is a legitimate question to ask. So these hikers, they got off the hiking trail and they wanted to explore the forest. Of course, maybe they're mushroom experts. They're looking for very nice, tasteful mushrooms. I mean, the healthy ones. I don't know. I'm just guessing, or just exploring, and they were happy and everything. And all of a sudden, they fall into one of those mines. They fall 20 feet deep into a mine shaft. And it broke their legs, their leg bones, and they could not get back out. And the nearest mine opening was further out, but they probably tried to find it to get out, walking on their knees, basically, because they couldn't. I'm guessing now, because they could not walk anymore. And there must have been unimaginable pain. So here's what happened. There was a guy who was guarding some of these mines. And I have my suspicions. So I really have my suspicions. So that's either a complete crazy man that is living there in some kind of log cabin. But I feel like this man is getting paid to guard these mines by the human trafficking industry and the organ harvesting industry. That's my suspicion about it. An old man that lives out there in a log cabin guarding these mines, and he wouldn't pack it out, so he just said they trespassed on his property. That's public property, the forest, okay? Everyone can go there. And then he used the excuse they litter. Hikers that hike for 20 miles into the forest, those are not the ones that litter, okay? That's a fact. Those are environmentalists. Those are people that love nature, that respect nature, that have reverence for nature and the forest, as these two people had. Okay. So those were it's just an alibi, I think, when he was interrogated, and he showed no remorse at all. So they gave him 45 years in prison, which means he would die in prison. He was already old, like 70. And I think he was being paid to keep silent. And they probably threatened him, if you pack it out who you work for, then we're gonna come for you and you're not going to survive this, so we're gonna suicide you, like what they did with Jeffrey Epstein. They have an entire network of corruption and just filaments of corruption in every system, okay? That's why I say, what J.D. Rockefeller said is the truth. So he was then asked how this all unfolded and why they fell into the shaft. He said that he put loose boards over that shaft. Why is there even a shaft opening that opens to the top of the floor of the forest ground? Why is there an opening there where people can't even climb out? I mean, they can't even climb in unless they use a rope or something that they tie to a tree. So why is there this opening in the first place? So that's another question. Has this been a trap for hikers already for a very long time? Lots of questions. I have lots of questions. So he put loose boards over it, and then he put tree branches over it and twigs to mislead people into thinking this is solid ground as they were hiking down that trail. And then he even said he created some kind of trail that leads to that trap. And that's what they followed. They followed this foot trail, small foot trail through the forest. And then they fell into that shaft. And the floor of that shaft is cement. So falling 20 feet down onto cement will break your legs. And then he went, after he heard their screams for help, then he went to the other end of the shaft opening, of the mine opening, the official mine opening. And he boarded it up from the inside with metal bars. And then he walked out another shaft that would go a couple of miles into a different direction. And he just let them die a gruesome death in that trap. That's what he did. So they had extensive searches, searching the entire area in a very wide radius. They could not find them. No traces of these people, because they would pack everything in. They're very conscientious about hiking and nature and leaving no footprints behind, like Sasquatch, so pack everything in, all of your packaging materials, your food items, put it back in the backpack, and leave no traces behind. And no one could find them for many, many, many years. So this happened in 2011, so for 8 years. In 2019, there were people that went into these old mines and salvaged metal, scrap metal. So, and they could live on that fairly well. 2 guys that hiked all the way out there with large backpacks to those mines, and they had a welder with them, and they cut the metal up in pieces and brought it with them, and would use that or would melt it into stuff. So they hiked all the way out there in 2019, and they found these 2 people in that shaft. They first saw that this one mine was boarded up from the inside. That was already very suspicious. They cut that open, and they went in it, and they saw these 2 people sitting there, squatting there against the wall of this shaft, next to each other. And they were completely white, like just shadows of people, and malnourished, and partly also mummified, kind of, because they were in the shaft. There weren't any flies getting to them. So, and blood empty. So, if there's blood in a body, in a dead body, then that will attract insects. So, decaying blood. But if it's just skin and no blood, then they can stay like this, mummified, basically. And then my question is, why is there no blood in those people? That was probably also not disclosed, because people have their price, okay? So, of course, they have been brought to an examiner, but what if the examiner is bribed? Don't disclose that they were blood empty, right? So, I'm just asking questions. There is an industry for blood, and there's an industry for adrenochrome. I saw that was absolute horror a couple of years ago on the internet. I mean, when you think you've seen it all, or now you know the pit of hell, right? You haven't seen it all yet, okay? It keeps going on into further hell tunnels, literally, okay? So that's what's happening. I think the trafficking industry went in there from another tunnel. They picked them up. They drained the blood out. I don't know whether they did it right there or in somewhere else. And then they placed them there again. Like nothing has happened. Of course, dead. I mean, which is probably, it's gruesome, right? But that would probably, for them, have been better to be right away drained of their blood than sitting there in agony and pain for 3 weeks until they have starved and thirsted to death in extreme pain of broken bones. So and if they had been there for that long, maybe another hiker would have found them, right? Another hiker would have heard their screams. So no other hiker heard anything anymore. It was just the moment they fell, that's when they were screaming. And the old man observed all of that, and he probably called these human traffickers and said, so we got two in the trap, come and get him. And they came through one of the long filament tunnels from another place, so nicely undetected by anyone. They drained the blood out of them, set them up there again, leaning against the shaft wall. And I think if they had suffered to death, they probably would not have been sitting like this, leaning against, with the legs propped up. Probably would not. They would have probably been in a totally distorted physical posture. Because if you are in extreme pain, you can't be just sitting there like you're with your knees up and leaning against something. Because that would indicate no pain, right? Is sitting there with your knees up waiting for something. That's very unlikely, very, very unlikely for someone with broken bones and in total agony. So I'm just raising questions here. So I think they were placed like that in there. They have never said like that in there. They were on the ground screaming in pain, in distorted body posture out of pain. And then they came and drained the blood out, which could actually, in that situation, be a more merciful situation than if they had actually died slowly. So that's still no excuse to drain the blood out but they drained the blood out and they set the trap for that particular business. Okay, that's what it is. So there should have never been a mine shaft that is open to the top. Okay, this is obviously a trap for hikers to fall into. This should be closed up with mountains of sand or dirt. This mine shaft that goes to the top. So I don't know what happened. So no one talked about that. What happened then with that? They just told the other hikers in the future, stay on the main trail, don't go off the main trail. Okay. Why haven't they closed off that mine? Why haven't they poured dirt and sand into it until it fills in the entire shaft? So Why is that shaft still open? Human trafficking industry having their fingers in it, okay, in that legislation. That's what I think. But maybe my video will save someone's life. If you go out there hiking in any wilderness area, Yosemite too, people went missing there. Lots of people went missing there, and then there's a lot of people that will say, oh, this is mysterious, or there's supernatural activity going on. Most likely not, okay? Most likely there could be supernatural activity as well, that I don't rule that out. But the most likely situation is the human trafficking industry with an underground network of tunnels, okay? It's there, okay? And it's a fact. It has already been discovered by many people. Only a few people, very few people, will talk about this, about the tunnel system. And they don't even talk about what caused this tunnel system and who is behind it. So far I'm only one person here who talks about it. I've never seen anyone else talk about the human trafficking network, tunnel system in the desert too. So this is what's going on. That's absolutely gruesome. These were extremely kind-hearted people. And falling like this is unbelievably frightening. It's terror, breaking bones and all of that pain, which causes adrenochrome in the blood. And when they come, I'm making a video. I'm in the middle of making a video right now. You don't want to be seen. I'm making a video, so yeah, okay. I won't show you. Okay. So falling like this is already causing this adrenochrome in the blood, which then they drain the blood and then they harvest the adrenochrome, which is a drug. That's a drug that is sold on the black market. That is extracted from the blood. Unbelievable. I mean, this is just unspeakable. The kind of stuff that some humans are doing. Monsters are doing something like this. Unbelievably psychopathic, sociopathic monsters will do something like this. And I wonder if Gavin Newsom is involved with that industry. I wouldn't be surprised if he is. And I wouldn't be surprised if he takes adrenochrome as a drug. I would not be surprised at all. I heard he is a drug user. So do not vote for this man. Okay? This man needs to go to prison. Do not put him back in as governor in the next election. Do not vote for him as president. If he becomes president, this country will be completely finished. Completely finished. Then we have the same as in South America. Then we have the drug cartels and the human trafficking cartels running the country. Then they can open up the borders and there'll be no difference between the United States and Mexico and South America. Okay? That's a fact. And it will not be pleasant. There will be more people that will go missing, more and more and more. Okay? So, I don't want to show forward. So, I have to do it like this here. More and more people missing, and more child abduction, more sex crimes, more rapes. Rapes are going to be happening, not even concealed anymore. and the police will not do anything about it. That's what we would get with Governor Newsom. Okay, so don't do it. This man needs to go to prison. I think he needs to get the death penalty. That's what I think. That's my personal view on it. This man has absolutely no empathy at all. The only thing that he does for some groups, like environmental groups or animal rights groups, are only this. It's only for his own PR. He doesn't do this from the goodness of his heart. Only from unsuspecting groups that are pressuring him to stick to his word and sign these laws into effect that here and there may be beneficial. Okay, a few of them. But he doesn't care about it. He only does that for PR. And then he does absolutely horrific things. So he is chasing old white people into homelessness. That's what he's doing. It's an atrocity of unbelievable proportions. So this needs to be talked about. It's there. This is the reality. Okay, become aware of it. I feel this is my duty to this environmental couple. They were environmentalists, activists, and also professionally. They were doing soil sampling and monitoring the environment and working on solutions, on helping to protect the forests. Those are the people we need on this planet. We don't want those people to be taken by adrenochrome harvesters. Okay? That's a fact. It's unbelievably heartbreaking. I mean, it's just infinitely horrific what happened to them. Infinitely horrific. And sometimes these adrenochrome harvesters, they make people suffer even more. There's no telling what they might be doing. They might bring them to a place where they're kept alive and for a while and being scared, being terrorized with something in order to make the adrenochrome go up even. Adrenochrome amount, the adrenochrome level in the blood go up. I heard all of this, it's unbelievably horrific. I just hope that they didn't have to undergo additional horrors. That's all I can say to this. No one deserves to suffer, particularly not kind-hearted people like that. It's infinitely sad. It's just infinite sadness. And I pray to all the good ETs and the blue God to protect this planet from these horrors. Make that end. Bring the bad people to justice. These bad people need to be executed. All the bad corporate agenda collaborators. They need to interrogate this old man further. He needs to pack it out. Pack it out. Pack it all out. Every one of you. Blow the whistle. It doesn't matter what the threat is. Do it for potential future victims. that can be saved through the whistleblowing. Okay. The second story that I watched is about a hiker, a young woman, a teacher in Arizona. And there's a tunnel system too. And I raised questions about this as well. She went missing, and 3 years later, the search team found her alive. She was almost starved to death. Also completely pale, like a ghost. And dehydrated and malnourished, with unimaginable scars on her body. And turned out that one of the guys that were among the search team was the one that held her hostage in the forest, miles out there in the wilderness. He held her hostage, and he did terrible things to her. And somehow he was able, and no one talked about it, no one raised the questions why that is. Somehow he was able to get from point A to point B in a very short time. He would be out there in the wilderness with her, controlling her, shackling and everything her, and having her tethered with handcuffs, probably ankle cuffs. And then he would disappear, and a short while later he would be back in the community, just a few minutes later. And he would be among the search team, acting like he's part of the search team. How does he get so fast from one point to another? Is there a tunnel system that he went into and has some kind of car in there that he can drive from one point to another very fast in that tunnel system, and then back to control her? He wasn't even malnourished. He was not. She was malnourished. He kept her malnourished for 3 years and put scars, cut her spinal cord in different places. Not, I don't know how deep he cut, but he cut so deep that she has permanent scars along her whole spinal cord. And on her other arm, her arms and legs. And when they found her, she was catatonic. She couldn't talk for a long time. They said this was not because of brain damage, this was psychological shock. It took them a long time to help her to come out of that catatonic state. And then she reported on what she witnessed, that he kept her there and controlled her and made her plant some plants, and that was the only thing she was allowed to eat. Not enough to keep her healthy, while he himself was not malnourished. So what was going on there? What's happening? Is he part of that human trafficking as well? So I don't know. These are questions. 4444. The blue God is on my side, and the blue god, agrees and says, what I'm talking about here is the truth. It's horrible that this is happening out there. Really, really horrific. Really horrific. So anyway, I needed to talk about this. I needed to get that off my shoulders. I mean, that's just so unimaginably horrific. I hope the girl fully recovered and is feeling better now. And never go out there alone again. Never, never, never. If you go hiking, please take a large guard dog with you. Please, please don't. Don't go out there again. Just because the guy is now behind bars doesn't mean there are no other people or dangers. There's a tunnel network and there are people popping up in different places that do not have good intentions. So it's not safe. I don't even feel safe to go hiking in the wilderness with my dog anymore. So you don't know what's going on, and maybe there will be suddenly several men, and I don't want them hurting my dog. Okay, so there are some trails that have a lot of hikers and that have very distinct hiking paths, and that's the only trails I would go with my dog, not alone. I will never go onto a hiking trail where there are no other hikers, or very, very few hikers. Never, ever, 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 ever. I'm way too afraid. I don't want that to happen. I don't want people harvesting my blood with adrenochrome. Okay? So I don't know if they want my organs. I'm 60, but they probably want young blood, of course. You know. So, which gives Paul and me some kind of immunity, but I'm not going to take chances, ever, 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 ever. So, peace and love for all living beings, for all animals, and all children, and all women, and all beings.